Well, let's fast forward to what Chamberlain said. He talked about some of those that have been fingered. Just if tomorrow comes and we realize that these names that have been dropped are actually guilty also. Now you say, well, there's some kind of deja vu. We've seen it before, but again, we're talking about it, so that's the difference. So what other difference are we likely to see, just in case we see that some of these people actually did something kind of dirty dealings at that time?
I want the EFCC actually to step in and prosecute people. I mean, some of these people had known that the cover of immunity.
You don't think that would defeat the that would defeat the purpose, because
of privatization?
the Senate Probe Committee has said we're not out to witch hunt anyone, and chances are that when we begin to look along the lines of prosecution, then people will start saying, see, they wanted to witch hunt us. That's the reason why they set up this probe panel committee in the first place.
They even ridicule it more when we just leave it at that. In fact, we make a laughing stock of ourselves. But the international community will be laughing at us. And that's why they are more willing to come and do business in Nigeria. Because it's the only country you do business and you get waivers. But
again, I thought, good enough you're here, one-time editor. I thought initially when we talk about witch hunt means a guilty man being hounded for no just cause. But in this case, an innocent man, I meant to say. So, but in this case, the fast forward and we said what we should look at here is for those who actually have their fingers burnt in all of these dealings. So that's not witch hunting. And you said yes, it should move in. How can they move in? For instance, now that the Senate ad hoc committee, the probe or whatever, the meeting has ended. It ended over the weekend, so they're no longer meeting. Should the EFCC now start to call people or sit with the Senate ad hoc committee and say, what were your findings, and now kickstart investigations from all of that?
EFCC does not need invitation to. One of the duties of EFCC does not need invitation to come to your house. Does not need your investigation. Your invitation to come to your house to investigate you. So EFCC should move to BPE and look through the files.
Yeah, but what happens if EFCC moves to BPE, begins to investigate, and tomorrow you hear somebody tell you, well, I actually supervised that office, drop that case. You can't look at that case. Where does that lead us all? That's
exactly what I'm saying. That it has to. It's a leadership issue. So it's a societal issue. It is the corruption that is endemic in the country, but we cannot continue to condone corruption. All of us together cannot continue. I mean, I'm happy that Nigerians are voicing their anger about what's going on, and it should end with the right authorities. In this instance, the EFCC.
Yeah, but
for once, let's have one brave heart defy the directive from the so-called.
Do you think that it is the EFCC that should be the brave heart here?
Why not?
Or the people, because this Senate Probe Committee did not just start to sit all of a sudden. They sat on the instigation, or no, it's not instigation per se, but on the comments made by both the president and his vice. So don't you think that after this Senate probe, this public hearing that they have held, I'm sure the president and his vice would have been interested to find out what exactly was going on. They should actually wade in here so that they can give the EFCC the backbone it needs. Exactly, to take this seriously and to move in.
But you see, if you're EFCC chairman, I don't want to wait for Mr. President to ask me to step in this matter. How putrid it is putrefying, is miasma, is dirty, is filthy. I don't need Mr. President's consent. I will move in. No, it's better for me to move in, and then somebody says, don't do that. And I'll say, for what?
Let's look at this. I mean, the BPE was invited to say certain things. I mean, all the former BPE DGs were called to say certain things. And one name kept on recurring. The former president's name kept on recurring, who's still very much alive. And wouldn't it just have, made sense, if not for anything, to hear his side of the story, for him to have been invited?
That's why I blame the Senate ad hoc committee. They would have invited. They are giving as fair hearing. If somebody keep accusing somebody on national television consistently, fair hearing demand that you call the other party to say, come play your name. But in a bid to protect the big man, to me, they are hurting him more. Because it has sunk into the subconscious of Nigerians that this man actually is our problem. It may not be the problem. And we have not had the opportunity to hear from him. But the Senate ought to have provided that platform for Mr. Ex-President to come explain himself.
You see, that reluctance to invite Mr. Ex-President spells something. I mean, something.
He says they're doing him more disservice.
Actually, whether or not the Senate realizes it, what a lot of Nigerians feel is that they were afraid to call him, and that fear could also, be transferred to the EFCC, assuming they also have to go and they have to...
Or even to the presidency.
Exactly. So, assuming all of this are their assumptions, don't you think that at some point we should, get support from the highest court as possible?
Yes. Mr. President said he's for zero tolerance, corruption. His Vice President has echoed it several times. I expect them, apart from what EFCC will do, to make a categorical point on this matter, step in, do a proper investigation now, because what if nobody has done any serious investigation on this matter? What we are just hearing are testimonies of people who were active players, including people that were shortchanged at the bidding process. They all came on the floor to say their own side of the story. But leadership starts from the top. It starts with the big man, and I expect President Goodluck to step in.
Yes. Some people also wouldn't want to go that way. They say, if you say you want the president to step in, then how independent can you now say the EFCC is? Because you wait for, look at the Gulf War probe in the UK. Former Prime Minister Gordon Brown was asked to come testify, and he came over. So we thought that, as you rightly observed, that they should also give the former president a fair hearing, irrespective of what has been done in that particular probe. So we don't truly need the president or the vice president in this, do we?
Well, we may have to need them, because your body language, the body language of the leader tells so much.
Why did the ad hoc committee sit in the first place if they know they will not give everybody fair hearing?
That's actually what I said. I blame the Senate ad hoc committee on this, because if you say you are not going on a witch hunt, somebody has already been witch hunted, quote and unquote, because it is neither here nor there. We don't know whether ex-president is guilty or not.
And then it goes back to why do we need the president?
We have promoted him, we have tarred his image consistently and persistently on national television, and I think, fair enough, he ought to have been invited to clear his name. But I also blame him, because in a matter like this, you barge in on them and said, look, give me an opportunity to say my own side of the story. I have a story to tell. So I expect Mr. Ex-President, that's Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, to also come in. I expected him to step in and say, no, I have a voice. Or even if you can't appear, you can chronicle all of this and give your own side of the story, your own testimony while you were there. Because at the end of the day, the box stopped it. It was a good thing that you started it. And they are saying that you actually started it, but you rocked the boat.
Because he must have meant well to start it in the first place. So what went wrong? Because as a country...
What went wrong ought to come from him, ought to come from the DPE, ought to come from the members of the NCP, there are many of them,